ऐसा नहीं।
சென்ட் பண்ணிட்டீங்களா? Sir, good evening, sir.
Very good evening, Pa. Shall we wait or Manikandan?
Sir?
நான் வெயிட் பண்ணலாமா இல்லை இப்படி ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணலாமா?
Sir, students வந்துட்டோம் சார்.
சரி, ஓகே ஓகேப்பா.
2 minutes. Okay. Sir, sir. Sir.
ஓகே என்னப்பா மிஸ்டர் மணிகண்டன்?
சார் ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணலாமா சார்?
ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணலாமாப்பா? ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணலாமா?
ஓகே சார்.
A very good evening to all of you. It's my pleasant and proud privilege to welcome today's chief guest, Mr. M. Poovarasan, who is presently working as a technical leader at ADAS Wapco Private Limited, Chennai, and he is going to deliver the guest lecture titled E-Mobility in India, Challenges, Technology, Market and Opportunities, which is the need of the present scenario. Everywhere people are talking about electrical vehicles, and even recently I have seen that flying car also invented by Chennai engineer. So nowadays all are going for electric vehicles. So now this is the up time to hear the guest lecture on the right topic. It's my pleasant privilege to welcome our chief guest, and I would like to welcome Dr. Krishnan, Physics HOD, as well as Dr. M. Anbuchilian and Dr. K. Tirupati and faculty members and other faculty members and students. So students, you please interact with the chief guest and clear all your doubts. And over to Mr. Manikandan for the introduction of chief guest. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Very good evening to everyone. First of all, I thank the speaker, Mr. Poovarasan, for accepting my invitation to share this experience in today's session. And I welcome respected faculty members and my dear students for this wonderful session on title E-Mobility in India, Challenges, Technologies, Market and Opportunities. It's my great pleasure for introduce our chief guest, that means guest speaker, Mr. Poovarasan. Previously, he was working in senior engineering in vehicle testing department, Magendra Research Valley at Chennai, and then manager vehicle testing, the company Dilemma India Commercial Vehicle Private Limited, and then engineer vehicle testing designation. Company name is Reynolds Nissan Technology Business Center India Private Limited. After that, at present working in Tata Motors Limited, representing Jayam Automotive Limited. That means engineer vehicle testing. And his achievement is 2020 Star of the Year award, as well as one first prize in GRAF, that means innovation ideas, as well as his exposure for different platforms and project, and then project coordinator with UAE market test vehicle, then involved in Reynolds Duster, that means vehicle testing, that means involved in Reynolds Duster, as well as Scala journalist vehicle test drive vehicle preparation. Then the session hand over to Mr. Poovarasan.
Yeah, thank you, Manigan. So is my voice clear and good enough for you to hear?
Very clear.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for the warm welcome, Dr. S. Thinnyanam and Mr. KP Manigandan. And thank you all professors and students of SRM for joining this guest lecture on e-mobility. Okay, so I just like to introduce myself. As Manikandan has said, right now I'm working with ZF Wapco. Actually, it is Wapco India Private Limited, and ZF has acquired it. So I'm responsible for this ADAS, autonomous and semi-autonomous vehicle technology development, for India as well as international market. That includes Europe, US, and China. Now we are stepping into India in the commercial vehicle platform. Already ZF is a lead runner for this ADAS vehicle technology globally in passenger car division. So now we are stepping into the commercial vehicle. We are looking to transform the Indian commercial vehicle industry. So that's my role. Before that, I was working with Mahindra Research Valley for 3 years in vehicle testing department. I was responsible for this XUV 300 and XUV 700 vehicle testing, and some other benchmark vehicles from the international platform. And before that, I was working with the Daimler India commercial vehicles, which you might be heard of, Bharat Benz. There I was working for 4 years. There I was leading the projects related to Gulf, UAE, Dubai, Saudi. So those market vehicles I was responsible for that, as well as some Indian market vehicles. And before that, I was working with Renault Nissan technology. There I was responsible for this Renault Duster, Scala related some minor vehicle testing. I just worked for an year there. Before that, I was working with Tata Motors Engineering Research Center in Pune. Okay, so that's all from my side. I'm basically from Dharmaburi. I'm settled at Chennai. So that's all about myself. Okay, maybe Manikandan, can you share the screen? I'll start explaining about.
Yes, Varsan.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So, okay, so today the lecture is on e-mobility and challenges in India. So I just prepared this presentation in so students who have joined today, I know it is very difficult to join on a weekend evening. Luckily, there is no CSK match today, so I hope you can listen in a very focused manner. So the entire, I just have prepared some just 15 to 16 slides, I guess. So all the slides is based upon my. Of course, the materials could have been downloaded from internet. You can see in your textbooks, or you can see in Google. But the content here is based on my experience, which I would like to deliver to you, because right now I'm working in a technology or a platform which I strongly feel that there is a gap between the skill of students in the college and what is expected in the industry, and it keeps on changing year on year. So I just wanted you to upgrade yourself. So try to use this 1 hour session and make it beneficial for you. Okay, let's move on. Next slide. Okay, so the content of today's presentation is I'll just touch upon e-vehicle market trend and what are all the myths and benefits of e-vehicles, and what are all the types of e-vehicles, and what typical e-vehicle autonomy. So these 4 concepts, of course, you could have heard of it. I'll just touch upon it and what are all the demands and what is happening in our, what is going to happen as a market, how this is going to transform. I'll just touch upon slightly. And my main focus is on the autonomous levels or autonomous vehicles, on semi-autonomous vehicle technology. And of course, they have those technologies has entered into Indian market recently. Of course, a lot of passenger cars now coming with this autonomous and semi-autonomous vehicle technology. And there are a lot of course, these are same ADAS technologies. And I'll just slightly touch upon AEBS, ACC, LKA, and CLKA related technologies. Yeah. Next. Next. Okay. So, guys, feel free to raise hand in the meeting, or you can interrupt me if you have any query. I'll try to address as much as possible to my best of my experience. Worst case, I can also connect you offline to get some responses if not possible in this 1 hour session. Okay. So just I'll. No, I think you jumped over a slide. Can you go back? Mr. Manikandan, can you go back to the previous slide? Yeah. Okay, so Today, if you see the electric vehicle component industry, it is going a rapid transformation in India. So those who have spoke like there is practically it is not possible to launch a electric two-wheeler or electric car or electric buses in India. Now you can see here and there are some two-wheelers used in at least someone using electric two-wheeler in your environment, in your surroundings, at least someone in your college also. So if you see, the electric vehicle platform has penetrated globally, and it is going to make a rapid transformation in India in next 5 to 10 years. So far, the peoples were like talking. I'll come upon that in myths actually. So I'll just touch upon how the business is going to be there from now on, from this year. After this Vola has started to build a world's biggest two-wheeler electric vehicle platform industry in Dharmapuri. So once they have launched the vehicle, you can see a very biggest transform throughout the country because of the charging infrastructure. They are going to build in some 500 plus cities in India. And once Vola has launched this vehicles and they have started this charging infrastructure or this whatever, every e-vehicle manufacturer will start to launch this charging infrastructure throughout the country. You can see at least 5 to 10 charging say for example, how to say, in every petrol bunk you can see at least one charging fast chargers. You can see or slow or medium moderate chargers, and there will be free battery transformation kind of stores will be there. I mean, the entire e-vehicle business is going to transform as a whole. So you can see here, this is just to show the glimpse of what is the key trend. 1/3 of the electric vehicle motor market emerged from the e-vehicle business in India, and now you can see Ashok Leyland has launched their e-vehicle buses, and almost some 70%. I am not sure 70 or 100% even. In the Delhi, you can see only there are e-vehicle buses. In Chennai, in fact, the government has procured some buses. It will be soon on the roads. And there are also some other state governments in India. They are procuring the e-vehicles. That's what about. Of course, the remaining things are story. You can see in the slide. And the main thing I wanted to say is like the government of India has committed during the Paris Agreement, which Trump has scrapped that. But I mean, US is stopped supporting, but still India has committed to the UN, in the Paris Agreement, that India will reduce the emission intensity by 33 to 35%, because petrol vehicle and diesel vehicle are emitting too much of harmful gases. So government of India has committed to reduce the emission level. So this is one of the electric vehicle industry is going to transform that as a whole. Yeah. Next slide. Okay. So what are all the myths? Myths in the sense, if you see, there are some stuck up ideas, whichever is blocking the flow of this e-vehicle rollout in India. Say if you see, electric vehicles will explode. Electric vehicles, what if the charge is dropped out while I am traveling from Chennai to Bangalore, and how will I charge? And what if the battery is exploded? The range is low, and e-vehicles are very costly. I cannot afford the vehicle, and there are no charging station. How can I buy this? And each and every point of this are addressed here. And of course, you are going to see a very big transformation by the state as well as the central government in the upcoming years. Definitely, starting from 2023 or 22, you can see a huge number of two-wheelers and three-wheelers and four-wheelers in the market. If you see, the first point is e-vehicle takes too long to charge. Okay. If you see, the e-vehicles are taking too long to charge. Okay. The e-vehicles are taking too long to charge. If you see, there are fast chargers as well as moderate and slow chargers are there in the electric vehicle industry. which you can see 0 to 80% of the charge can be done in 1 to 5 hours in the slow or the moderate chargers. Generally, you can use these chargers at your home. And the fast chargers, if you see, there are a lot of fast charging station going to be there in our country soon, which can be charged in less than 1 hour. And again, the fast charger or a slow charger, whatever that may be, depends on the capacity of the battery or the cell chemistry. So this is a false news. Electric vehicles will not take too long to charge. Of course, there are fast chargers which can make full charge can happen within 45 minutes also. And e-vehicles are costly. That is also not true. If you see the total ownership cost, I'll explain in some future slides what is the, if you say, for example, Tata Tigor petrol vehicle as well as Tata Tigor electric vehicle. So what is the operational cost if you drive for 100 kilometer? So how economical the electric vehicle is? Maybe the cost of purchase could be marginally higher when compared to the compared to the gasoline or diesel vehicle, but in the end, if you see, electric vehicles are I mean, it has the very good operational cost. And electric vehicles has a lower range, so that is also a myth and that is a false news. Electric vehicles, there are, if you see, there are vehicles which has 84 kilometer per charge, which is good enough to travel within the city. Those who are going to office and coming back to office, who are going to school or college coming back. So those kind of thing, 84 kilometer per charge is really a good thing. And if you see for the long run, if you see, it can, I mean, there are few vehicles which can provide a range of up to 150 to 200 kilometer per charge. And there are also vehicles which have a highly efficient battery traction system, which will provide a further more ranges than this. And e-vehicles are not safe. This is totally false. If you see, there are also gasoline and diesel vehicles exploding here and there, but that is not the real root cause. There are, however, there are challenges here and there, but e-vehicles are totally safe. If you see, battery manufacturers, they have to address some regulation guidelines by the government, and they are, once the testing is completed and if it is successful, then only government will give the certificate to them. It doesn't mean that you can pay some money to the government and they will provide like that. There is a certification agency called as RI or ICAT agency. They will do extensive testing and they will not leave you like that. I mean, you have to provide all the circuit drawing, everything you have to submit to them, and they have to provide the type approval certificate for your vehicle. So battery management system, everything they will be validating with respect to the safety concerns. And e-vehicles have a lower speed. That is also a false news. E-vehicle, if you see, e-vehicle will have a higher starting torque than a petrol or a diesel vehicle, because as soon as you started, you can cruise it, and it has a better acceleration as well as speed compared to the internal combustion engines. And e-vehicles battery need to be replaced frequently. That is also a false. If you see e-vehicle battery, they have a warranty even up to 8 years also. And this is common across all the vehicle platforms. If you see, the actual battery warranty may vary depending on your usage. That is also one thing. So this is a false news that e-vehicle battery need to be replaced frequently. That is false. Battery can come even up to there are even we have started testing from 2010. There are also vehicles which we have not changed battery until 2018-19 also, even though we have done extensive testing. So that is one thing. And there are not enough EV charging stations. If you see, there are few EV charging stations so far in the country, and there is a FAME scheme, and there are public charging stations going to be launched by the oil and natural gas manufacturers in India. So you can see, as of now, this is just a news. You can see in the starting from the 2022. You won't even believe, so that much of transformation the e-vehicle is going to happen in India. But because in fact there is a association called SIAM, Society of Indian Automotive Manufacturers. They are like a pressure group to the government, and in fact they have together they have started to how to say phase out the gasoline and diesel vehicle manufacturing. I mean, because of Indian government committed to the Paris Agreement. Yeah. Next slide. Okay. So benefits, if you see, okay, before going to the benefit, of course, as I explained in the previous slide, if you see the Tata Tigor petrol, that has climbed, for example, petrol, it has a mileage of say 20 kilometers per liter. Okay, if you want to drive say 100 kilometers, it would consume around 5 liters of petrol. Okay, so assume the cost of petrol is 100 per liter. Okay, of course, I just changed this value today because the last guest lecture I just made some 6 or 7 months back, it was somewhere around 91. So the calculation is changed now, so it is like some 100 rupees per liter. Now the cost of traveling 100 kilometers is like 500. But for a Tata Tigor EV, you can see here at the bottom. So the Tata Tigor EV with a total battery capacity is 21.5 kilowatt. If you see the charging, if you just like a petrol bunk, if you go to a fast charging station, so what is your how they are going to charge you is like if your vehicle, how this is 21.5 kilowatt is just like your 100 cc of your bike or 1000 cc of your car, like that. This is the capacity for a battery of the vehicle. So they will calculate the cost of charging just like this: 21.5 kilowatt into 4. For example, this is a tariff for Delhi, so 4.5 rupees per kilowatt in Delhi. If you go to the Bureau of Energy Efficiency website, you can see for each and every state how much this cost is varying. Even though if you consider 10 or 15 rupees, still it is economical when compared to the Tigor petrol. And cost of traveling is just 96 rupees. So even though the cost of e-vehicle is marginally higher, still this is the very cheapest operational cost vehicle for everyone. And of course, right now you may think of how can I buy the, you thinking of the range and all. There are also government providing incentives. I will cover here. If you see the convenience point of view, electric vehicle owners can claim the income tax deduction up to 1.5 lakhs for under 80 EEB. And this is like a reduced dependence of the imported fossil fuel for the country, like this petrol and diesel. You can avoid importing in the country. So that is one thing. And in the long run, if you see from 2030, Indian government has committed to scrap the completely the petrol and diesel vehicles. But of course, that is unbelievable. But if government has committed at least by 2030, by at least by 2035 or 40, there will not be any more manufacturing of petrol or diesel vehicles in the country. That is going to happen for sure. So next slide. So, okay, what are all the types of e-vehicles? If you say, I'll just slightly touch upon, of course, you could have read it in your books also. But anyway, I just wanted to share this as a basic information. Yeah, suppose some of you has not gone through this. Say the conventional vehicle is just like a normal petrol vehicle or a normal diesel vehicle. So the sources of energy is like petrol or diesel. Consumption, it will consume the petrol, and emission, it will be too much of emission. Okay, too much of emission in the sense, of course, for a petrol vehicle or a diesel vehicle, you can see this CO, HC, NOx, and ppm. Sorry, PM. So these are all the some main emissions. So this is the advantage point. This is the reason we are switching to the e-vehicle industry. And next is hybrid car. So in e-vehicle, there are like 3 types: hybrid car, plug-in hybrid car, and all electric car. This is like a complete battery car. So hybrid car is nothing but it will use both the either gasoline together with the petrol. Of course, there will be emission here because it will use a gasoline. The thing is, how to say, during the regenerative braking, whenever the braking and all happen, at the time it will charge the battery, and you can also charge the battery whenever you are at home, or you can charge at a fast charging station. So this is the hybrid vehicle. But the plug-in hybrid vehicle, both gasoline and you can switch to either one of the mode. So this is the plug-in hybrid advantage of this. Of course, this will have very least emission when compared to the above one. And all electric, there is no petrol or gasoline at all. It is purely electric vehicle, which can which will be, how to say, now recently launched the Tata Tigor is like a all electric one. And plug-in hybrid, you can see, I don't remember the model. It is a Volvo. I mean, high-end cars are with the plug-in hybrid vehicle. Now there are low-end cars which is going to get launched in Indian market for the plug-in hybrid platform. So next slide. So as I explained in the previous slide, so hybrid vehicle, you can see this is you can see the engine is also there, the motor is also there, and during I mean while running the gasoline will be, I mean the petrol engine will be charging the battery while running, even during the braking, which is called as regenerative braking system. So this is going to happen in the hybrid, but in the plug-in hybrid, both will be there. You can switch to the mode. Mostly the primary source of energy will be electric motor. When there is a less charge, it will go to gasoline, and you need to charge the vehicle. So that's why there is a recharging option is there. And for the battery electric vehicle, it is purely a battery. Yeah, next. So I think we are coming to the end of the e-vehicle topic. You could have gone through this also. So this is a typical anatomy of a e-vehicle. There is no engine in this. This is an electric motor which uses a DC power. There are also vehicles which has a AC type of motor which needs an inverter which converts this AC into DC. And there is a, even though if you use a DC, there will be a power converter like DC power converter, and there is a drivetrain unit, there is a battery pack, and there is a fast charging or the charging outlet. So in simple, there are of course there are a lot of advancement in the e-vehicle industry, like electric drive module is there, which is integration of the electric motor as well as the complete power electronics in the system. So you can see there is a e-axle in the vehicle. So a lot of advancement has been there. Everything is ready once the government is also promoting these manufacturers. So you can see all this can be affordable soon, very soon in the nearly future. Yeah, next slide. Okay, so that's the end of e-vehicle kind of informations. If there are any questions, you can raise, or also you can also raise the questions at the end of session. Now I am going to move on to the ADAS platforms, which is the autonomous or semi-autonomous vehicle technology. In this technology, you can how to say there are a lot of technologies launched already in our Indian market. It doesn't mean the ADAS doesn't mean that it is like a driverless car. There is a false understanding like ADAS in the sense is a driverless car or something like that. No. We are not going to transform to a driverless car. It will be coexist together with a car with a driver. Even there are driverless trucks are also there. You can see in the airport which used to follow a routine route for trucks and buses. There are also driverless vehicles launched, and Amazon Zoox and Google Waymo, Tesla Autopilot. There are also autonomous vehicles. But these are all the technologies which are currently existing in the market, and there is a very big boom in the Indian market that starting from there is a myth like it is a costliest technology, but XUV 700, if you see the recently launched XUV 700, you can see in the YouTube videos they have launched in the test track. You can see all the lot of technologies are there in the vehicles, ADAS technology. And there are also MG Hector, which has a lot of technology. Other than that, before itself, there are vehicles like Mercedes-Benz, which has this ADAS technology. You can start to see all this technology in even at very low affordable cars in starting from 2024, because Indian government now you can see ABS is mandatory for all the cars, bus, trucks, or a light commercial vehicle, that may be Tata Magic, Share Auto, or Tata AS, whatever it is. ABS is mandatory in India. So, so every vehicle is manufactured with the ABS. I mean, every vehicle is fitted with the ABS for the past 2 years, and it is going to continue. And there is a technology called as AEBS, which is going to get mandatory in India in passenger cars at least starting from 2024. So from 2024, the ABS will be there. So what is that ABS? So those things, what are all the ADAS technologies are there? I will explain one by one in the upcoming slides. Yeah. Next. Okay. Okay. So you can see these are all the levels of autonomy as per the SAE, Society of Automotive Engineers. So starting from the level 0 to level 5, these are all the levels of autonomy. The level 0 is like whatever car we have now or whatever truck we have now is a Level 0 vehicle, level 0 in the sense there is no automation. We have to do the steering and acceleration. We have to monitor the atmosphere and we have to drive carefully and we have to control the vehicle in terms of braking or whatever. Okay, so this is no automation, level 0. Okay, coming to the level 1, driver assistance. Driver assistance in the sense there are technologies just like adaptive cruise control, just like AEBS or advanced emergency braking system. And there are some other technology like lane departure warning, lane keep assist, continuous lane keep assist, blind spot information system. So all of these features, so these are like a level 1 feature. Even though if your vehicle is with this technology, this is a level 1 feature. So level 2 feature, this is like if there are like two controls in the sense longitudinal as well as lateral control. Longitudinal in the sense you are driving and accelerating the vehicle and moving forward, and lateral in the sense if you are moving out of lane, it has to control and come back to the lane. So this is a partially automated, so level 2 vehicle. If you see Tesla autopilot recently, you can see those in the news, or Tesla S model. There are like they are claiming like a level 4 or level 5 level, but of course industry is giving them only a level 2 kind of thing only, because still there are a lot of accidents happening in there, even in the testing vehicles. So of course as of now it was even though they claim it is a level 2 automated vehicle. And level 3, if you see, this is a conditional automation. Conditional automation in the sense the atmosphere, it will be monitored by the vehicle and it will drive carefully, but again it needs a driver whenever there is a situation. Okay, and level 4, this is like a completely automated vehicle, but still driver is needed for a safety purpose. And level 5 is like there is no driver at all needed. So now industry is somewhere at level in India. If you see level, the vehicles are with a level 1 only, but in case of countries like Europe and US, so they are even in China, there are testing going on for the level 2 and level 3 kind of automation only. So the globe is almost going towards this. So what is this ADAS technology is like? This is like providing the comfort to the driver. This is like providing the extra safety to the driver, even though if you don't know the driving. Say for example, you can see a boom in this AMT vehicles, because if you see the recently you can see the entire Indian industry in terms of engineering point of view. We are like there are a lot of how to say IT job booms and automotive industry booms. So a lot of source providing jobs. I mean, there is a big boom in the market. So because of which there is a continuous sale in the vehicles. If you see, there are a lot of purchase of vehicles. In that, people are preferring to buy AMT vehicle, because a husband can also drive the vehicle and a wife can also drive the vehicle in a family. So they prefer AMT, and it is it is an extra comfort when you are comparing it to a manual vehicle. Of course, it depends on the choice, but still the people are preferring AMT, and there is a big boom in the AMT market industry for the past 4 to 5 years, and this is continuing now also. And even for this ADAS technology, so AMT vehicles are like for most of the features, if it is fitted with AMT, it is easier for them to implement. Okay, next slide. Okay, you can see in the slide, so the 3 pictures whichever I have mentioned, the first one is Google Waymo. This is an autonomous vehicle prepared by autonomous vehicle. Actually it was a startup and Google has acquired it. So the car name is Waymo, and next is the Tesla, and third one is Amazon's Zoox. So these are all the autonomous vehicles. There are also trucks, as I said, which are how to say, these are like autonomous tractors in the sense, not like the agriculture tractor, the commercial vehicle tractor trailers, you could have heard of it. So autonomous tractors are there in the airport or in the mines. So there are a lot of things going around in the industry. We can see these are all the technologies. The technologies are like the forward collision warning, Forward collision warning in the sense if you are driving and if you are not aware, if you are slept or if you are tired or if you are not conscious, something like that. If there are object at the front, it will warn your vehicle. There will be a warning audible. It may be audible warning or it may be haptic warning. Audible warning in the sense you can hear the sound or you can you can hear a sound, and visual warning is like there will be a pop-up of light in the cluster, and haptic warning is like there is a jerk in the vehicle. There will be automatically there will be a brake provided and there will be jerk in the vehicle, and in some cases there are also jerk in the seat, driver seat. So that is also one warning. And even though if the driver fails to respond, there are also automatic braking without the driver applying the brake pedal. It comes into picture. That is called as AEB. So you can see the lot of technology in the slides. And all these technologies uses mostly globally, they are using 4 major steps. So as you people are from used to I mean you guys are students, you have to study all this kind of stuff, and you have to be get ready to face the campus interviews with these kind of informations or knowledges with you. It will be an added advantage for you if you know these kind of steps. One is radar, next is lidar, next is camera, next is ultrasonic sensor. So these are all the only 4 technologies which the entire automotive industry is using for the autonomous and semi-autonomous vehicle technology. Okay. So you have to if you guys, even though if you some of you guys are there in final year, you can go through this, how the radar works, how the lidar works, what is the principle of that, what is the ultrasonic sensor does, and what is the camera does. So those kind of information, at least this will be like useful for you if you are searching job in automotive industry, because the entire automotive industry is going through a rapid change. Because I was also contributing to the regulation prepared by the government for India. Starting from 2024, there will be a forward collision warning compulsory in all the passenger cars. Even though if you miss, just like if you don't wear seatbelt, there will be a warning right in your cluster. Similar to that, if you are following a vehicle too closely, there will be a warning. And even though and there will be a AEB launched soon from 2025. If you fail to react, it will automatically apply the brake and it will stop the vehicle. Either it will stop the vehicle completely and it will avoid a collision with the front vehicle, or else it will stop the vehicle and it will minimize the impact. At least if the impact of accident is happening at 80 kmph, it will at least try to reduce the impact from 80 to 30 or 25 kmph. Say anyway collision is going to happen, at least we will try to reduce the impact. So that is called as the, even though the technology is called as ABS, it is called as collision mitigation system. And if there are technologies which will completely avoid the collision, the same ABS only, but there are cases, there are functional or software or development level features changes in that, which is called as collision avoidance system. Okay, so which is called as 80-0, we will say in our terms. 80-0 is like 80 kmph, and we are going to make an impact at the front vehicle at 0 kmph. So of course we are safe. That is collision avoidance. And 80-40 or 80-30 or 80-12, that is like a collision mitigation system. Okay. Next slide. Seems like an interruption on the connection.
No, sir.
Is it the same for all, or is it only for me? Because
Same for all, Mr. Povarasan.
yeah, thank you.
Mr. Manigandan. Try to go to the next slide.
Manikandan?
Seems like there is an interruption in his connection.
Sir?
Move to
Okay.
next slide.
Next slide.
Sir?
Slide.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Coming to the technologies, as I said, these are all the four. No. Go back to the previous slide, Manikandan.
Four, sir.
Yeah, please go back to the previous slide.
Four, sir.
Yeah, I can hear you, Manikandan. You can go back to the previous slide. Hello. Yeah, Mr. Manikandan, can you go back your slide back? Maybe. I have a requested control for the slide. Maybe you can provide me if you have a slow connection. I'll just try to operate it. Yeah. Can you go back to the previous slide?
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. So if you see the entire ADAS world or the autonomous vehicle or the semi-autonomous vehicle technology world is relying on these four technologies only. One is camera, another is radar, another is lidar, another is ultrasonic sensor. So I'll just explain very simply where this is used and how this is used and why it is used like that. If you see, you can see the lowermost table. Okay. Okay. First of all, I'll explain what is what. Camera, camera will capture the image frames. Camera will be fitted at the front windshield. It will look at the road. It will look at the front vehicle. It will capture the images. And there are software in the camera. And the software will decode the content in the image. Say, for example, there is a vehicle. It is a car. It is a bus. It is a tree. It is an animal. Whatever it is. So the camera will have a software which will decode the information from the image, that is called as image processing algorithm, which uses artificial intelligence scripts or machine learning scripts. And okay, and camera will provide the lane based information. Lane in the sense you can see the lane marking on the roads, whether it is continuously marked or if it is a dotted line marked or however it is. So lane related, road related informations will be there in the camera. But camera has a disadvantages. If there is a sunlight at the opposite direction, the camera will have a problem in this image processing. I mean, there will be there will be distortion, or it will be like too much of glare in the lens. So that is one disadvantage, and it will be like the performance of the camera will be poor at the night. Night driving conditions, when there is too much of dark conditions, even though the camera is capable of doing at a very low lux levels. So if you see, the camera is not capable of capturing the content completely in a night based atmosphere. But if you see in the radar, it won't worries about the atmosphere. Even though if it is raining, if you are going in a snowy surface, if you are going in a night time, it doesn't matter. Radar will capture whatever happening there. But the thing is, radar does not know it is a person or it is a thing. It will process and it will provide the information. It is a car or bus or something like that. That is called as object classification. Object classification is nothing but if the object is a car or the object is a bus or object is a bike or object is a person, radar does not know anything. Does not know in the sense the algorithm can find out, but it is not that good in classifying the objects. But if you see the camera, it is very good in capturing the objects. Because it will see just like your eyes, it will see, it will identify that this is a car, this is a bus, this is a buffalo, whatever it is. But radar, it is very good, and this is affordable. Radar is bit cheaper when compared to the all the other technologies. And next is LiDAR. So radar, if you see the operation principle, flights use radar, and of course you could have heard the flights are using radars. It will emit the radio waves, and the radio waves will be emitted, and it will touch upon some surface, and it will come back. It will has a trans receiver antenna. I mean transmitter, as well as it act as a transmitter as well as receiver. It emits the radio waves, and the radio waves will come back to the antenna. So based on the information, it will provide information to the radar, like there is a bus coming in front at 40 kmph. There is a bus going in opposite direction at 30 kmph. But radar has some range. If it is a short range radar, if it is a medium range radar, if it is a long range radar. So it depends. It depends on the bandwidth of the radar, and depends on the range of the radar you use. And next is LiDAR. LiDAR, if you see, Tesla mostly uses, completely autonomous vehicle uses combination of all these things, radar, LiDAR, camera, and ultrasonic sensor. LiDAR, if you see, both radar and LiDAR has similar property, but radar emits radio waves, and the radio waves, it will come back. So there is algorithm processing the information in the radar, and it will calculate the distance, everything. But LiDAR, it will emit the light wave, and it will come back. This is very accurate when compared to the information provided by the radar. Though radar will provide the information, the accuracy of information is very better in LiDAR. But the only problem is LiDAR is a bit costly when compared to both these technologies, camera and radar. So that is the thing here. So if you see high-end cars, if they are not going to worry on the cost of the vehicle, of course, you can use the LiDAR. And next is ultrasonic sensor. I have not pasted the image here, but ultrasonic sensor, you, all of you could have known in your cars, in the reverse parking sensor, you use the ultrasonic sensor. Ultrasonic sensor is a very lesser range. It will be like lesser than 1 meter or 0.5 meter, something like that. I mean, lesser than 2 meters generally. But ultrasonic sensor, the problem is like you have to use 4 or 5 ultrasonic sensors at the rear of your vehicle to detect the range. You cannot use a single ultrasonic sensor, because the how to say, in terms of azimuth, in the azimuth angle in this plane, the field of view of ultrasonic sensor is very lesser. But radar, if you see radar as well as camera, it has a very good, very wide field of view, so that the waves will get emitted and the information will be covered in this. So these are all the globally used. These are all the only stuffs used by the automotive thing. If you go through the fundamental principle of the camera, LiDAR, or radar or ultrasonic sensor, please understand the fundamental working concept. Please go through that, and you can understand how this is used in the ADAS technologies. Mostly modern automotives used at least 2 of this technology, radar plus camera. And in the below report, you can see object detection. Everything is good, but camera has a very poor, or it is not that good in object detection. Object classification, camera is best at it. And distance estimation. Distance estimation is how far an object is, and both radar and LiDAR is good at it. But LiDAR is marginally better compared to the radar. And the edge of the object detection, if you see, LiDAR is very better. And lane tracking, lane in the sense you have to see in your eyes and then only track, so it needs a camera. And visibility range is very good in radar. And in case of weather condition, radar does not know if it is raining or if it is a thunderstorm. It will keep on sense the waves and keep on providing the information. And even though light, if the light is poor or bad, it doesn't care. So radar or LiDAR will give good information. And the ability to communicate with other vehicles. You can see this recently launched Hyundai, also this connected car technology, which that one vehicle can communicate with the other vehicle. So like that, the C2C communication is happening. So these are all the performance analysis of the radar, LiDAR, and camera and ultrasonic sensors. Yeah, next slide. Okay, so before going to this, I'll just show you a video of how the AEBS is functioning. If you, I believe most of you guys should know about what is an AEBS. If you don't know, just you can see a short video, or else maybe I can explain here. So this is a technology going to be in your vehicles. If you are buying a car or bus or truck from 2025, it will be there compulsory in the Indian roads. Okay. So this will be like, if you see, this is your vehicle. Okay, maybe you cannot view the mouse. You can see the truck at the left side. At the end, at the right side, you can see a passenger car. So if that is the target vehicle, if the truck is going and suppose the driver is not reacting, if he is inattentive, first of all, there will be a audible warning. Next, there will be a haptic warning. And next, there will be like a start of emergency braking by the vehicle automatically without help of driver, and then the collision impact will be avoided, or else the collision impact will be minimized. In this case, maybe I'll show you. Manikandan, can you click on that link in the slide? It is connected to YouTube. This is just a 19 seconds video, just to show. If you say, for example, if the vehicle is going at 50 kmph, you can see in this video. Suppose the driver is not reacting, or if he slept or something like that, it will detect the vehicle at the front and it will provide a warning. Okay, I understood the connectivity is a bit poor, so it is difficult to view in this. Maybe you can see in the YouTube itself, like AEB function in commercial vehicles or passenger cars, something like that. You can go back to the slide, Manikandan. Yeah. Yeah, you can go back to the presentation. Yeah, thanks. Okay, so as explained, if you see, if the vehicle is going in 80 kmph, first of all, there will be a warning. Next, a warning in the sense it will be a audible warning or a visual warning, and the next there will be a haptic warning, and next there will be emergency braking. So everything will be configured in the software. So everything will be works based on. I mean, each vehicle manufacturer will have different supplier, sub-supplier. There are experts. ZF is one of the supplier who are developing this ADAS technology globally, and there are also suppliers like Bosch, Continental, Valeo. There are a lot of companies which are developing these technologies, and they are exporting throughout the world. Okay, next slide. Okay, the time is up by 2 minutes. Maybe I'll try to finish in next 5 minutes. So next is like cruise control and adaptive cruise control. Of course, you could have known about the cruise control feature. Cruise control feature, you know, if you want to drive at, say, if you are going in a highway, you want to drive at 100 kmph, but if your legs are paining, you can go to 100 kmph and you can press the set button. Once the 100 kmph is set, you can remove your legs of the accelerator pedal, and then the vehicle will constantly moving on in the 100 kmph. Maybe in country like our India, the road infrastructure, of course, it needs driver intervention often. But if you go to countries like UAE or I mean the Gulf countries or the Europe or US countries, mostly they will use the cruise controls. But if you are using a cruise control, suddenly if there is a vehicle coming in between, or if there is a buffalo coming in between, something like that, you have to react immediately. You have to brake it, and then again you have to press the pedal again, or else you have to press the resume button. You can see in the resume button in the steering wheel in the above image. But here is the advantage of the adaptive cruise control. Adaptive cruise control, it will detect the object at the front. Say if you are setting your vehicle speed to cruise control speed to 50 kmph, for having an adaptive cruise control is a must feature. Okay, so if you are setting it to 50 kmph, if the front vehicle is going at 50 kmph, it will follow at a safer distance. Suddenly, if the front vehicle is braking, it will automatically brake your vehicle. You need not brake; it will automatically brake, and it will maintain a safe stopping distance. And then if the vehicle is if the front vehicle is moving again, then your vehicle will start to move again. So ACC is of two types. One is like a full speed range ACC. Next is limited speed range ACC. Full speed range in the sense vehicle can stop and vehicle can resume back. Okay, if there is no vehicle at the front, it can maintain the set speed and it can constantly keep on moving. So this is a longitudinal motion control feature. Okay. So next is like limited speed. Limited speed ACC is like it will work only from 25 kmph to 125 kmph, something like that. So it will work only in the some future range. If your vehicle speed is going below the 25 kmph, this feature will not be functioning. Okay. Next slide. Next slide, Manikandan.
Okay, change this.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so next is this lane keep assist or continuous lane keep assist. There are lot of lane related features are there. If you see here, the most of the lane features use a camera for a better lane related informations, and lane keep assist, if you see, the camera will receive the lane related informations in assistance with the steering system of the vehicle. It will, for example, if you are going in the lane and if you are slightly moving out of the lane, if you are driving in a drowsy manner or you are driving very relaxedly or subconsciously, something like that, your vehicle will pull out, it will restrict the movement of your vehicle going out of the lane and it will pull back to the original lane. So this is the lane keep assist feature. But continuous lane keep assist is like it will never make you to move out of the lane. It will constantly follow the lane path. It will track the lane. There is algorithm in the camera. It will detect the lane related informations. Whether your tire is touching the lane marking or not, it will continuously track it and it will constantly maintain it. You can switch off the feature if you don't want. You can see the lane keep assist feature button. This is the kind of symbol in the cars or trucks. So this is one major technology. So there are a lot of technology, at least there are 40 to 50 technologies are there. It is difficult to cover all this in 1 hour. So if you guys are interested, you can always feel free to contact me. So because this is a 1 hour session, of course we are beyond by 6 minutes. Sorry for that. So you can reach out to me. Manikandan, you can move on to next slide. Okay, you can reach out to me via this email ID. My email ID is poovoice@gmail.com, or this is my mobile number. I conduct sessions regularly for experts from experts from the industry who are even 10 years experienced throughout India, and even people from the Europe also. I'm just guiding them. If students, if you are interested to understand the very fundamental basics to crack an interview in terms of the technologies or in terms of automotive, if you want to enhance your knowledge in automotive background, you can reach out to me. I conduct a lot of webinars and a lot of one-to-one sessions also. You can feel free to reach out to me. And if you have some doubts, maybe if time, if I believe we are over time, if you have some queries, you can also raise now.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what are the softwares that are being used in the industry right now, currently, which are in the front?
Software in the sense, this is okay. Can you be specific with your question? There are softwares which are used for simulation purposes. There are softwares which are used in the vehicle. Which kind of softwares you mean in your question?
For in the vehicle.
Okay. Modern automotives has at least 25 to 40 ECUs in the vehicle. Okay, that may be a bus or cars or trucks. Okay, so of course most of the ECUs are built based on the model based programming. Of course, if you guys have a knowledge on MATLAB Simulink, that is a very good backup for you to crack some interviews. So that is a MATLAB Simulink is used for model to develop a base software or to develop application software of an ECU. And you can also learn machine learning languages like Python or SAS, or you can learn artificial intelligence scripts. So these are all used for the data processing or even the image processing algorithm in the thing. There are a lot of softwares specific to each organization, which is confidential to each organization. Say, for example, Valeo use their specific software, which only they can use. But even though they provide the software to the OEMs like Mahindra or Ford, they will not provide the complete access to the software. So there are a lot of software is like a very generic statement, but these are all the high level informations which I can share now in this forum. Is your question addressed properly or how it is?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sir,
Yeah.
If any other questions?
sir, if autopilot is implemented in India, how it will works? Because India as the road system is not properly assigned. So how
Yeah.
it will be assigned in autopilot systems like these softwares and these systems?
Okay, I understood your question. So autopilot is like a completely driverless technology car. If in case of road infrastructure like US or Europe or Australia or China, even I'm not sure of China, but of course there are technologies here and there in China. So the road infrastructure is very good. The road traffic signs, all these technologies also need some informations like proper traffic signboards also, because the cameras will capture the traffic signs also. If there is a speed limit, the camera will capture the speed limit and it will maintain the speed limit also. There is a feature called intelligent speed assist or traffic sign assist, something like that. So there are a lot of technologies. So the complete autopilot or complete autonomous vehicle will be a fusion of multiple technology: lane keep assist, adaptive cruise control, ABS system, lane departure warning, blind spot warning, or lane change warning, turn assist, front turn assist, traffic light intelligence. So there are a lot of technologies are there. So the entire technologies are fused together, and then it becomes a driverless car. But if you use this technology, if your question is if it is used in India for the road infrastructure, it will be definitely difficult, because we not just road infrastructure, there is also a thing called traffic signs, and there are also driving discipline here. That is that matters. But if everything is regulated properly, then it is easy. But now the companies have started to implement the autonomous or semi-autonomous vehicle technology gradually. Now, if you see the XUV 700, recently launched XUV 700, it has technology like ACC, LKA, and AABS. So yes, of course, these technologies are there. If 2 or 3 technologies work together at a time, so this becomes a partially autonomous vehicle. This became a fully autonomous vehicle. So once all vehicles started to, I mean, if all the vehicle manufacturer they start to launch these vehicles in Indian market with these technology, so step by step, the condition will improve in the India, and definitely, of course, autonomous vehicle is possible in India. But right now, at the moment, it is very difficult. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Question?
Yeah.
Am I audible now?
Yeah.
Yeah, yes. My question is about safety measures, actually.
Okay.
So whatever technology, either even 40, 50, any technology, it is completely for the safety purpose of the person who's traveling inside that. Suppose there is a central control system, that CPU. If supposed to be the central control system is not properly working, right?
Okay.
So what will be the alternate solution to safeguard the person traveling?
Okay. Maybe I can take your question in this way. Okay. For completely, your question is related to a completely autonomous vehicle, right?
Yes, completely autonomous stage or whatever it may be, because once you travel in that safety, completely belief on safety measures, the vehicle running on the road supposed to be, as you said, the lidar and radar and ultrasonic, anything else. So what distance it can cover, how fast the information can be shared to the CPU, how that CPU can process it, how it can control the system. That's what my question.
Yes. Very good question. Okay. So to be frank, there are, as I said, there are a lot of issues for a vehicle. Even for a door, there are at least 2 ECUs for a highly autonomous vehicle, at least 2 to 3 ECUs for a door control, because it needs a power window, it needs a automatic opening and closing. So there are even for a door itself, there are 2 to 3 ECUs. It could be there in the modern vehicles. So similarly, there are at least 40 plus ECU. There is for an autonomous kind of vehicle, as you said, there is a central processing unit kind of stuff which might be there, which will be processing information from all the ECUs. So all the ECUs are communicated via the communication network like CAN. Say, for example, if your laptop, if you need internet connection, you use a Ethernet cable, right? LAN cable that will be connected to the modem. So this is the communication medium like that. In modern automotive ECU communication will be happened based on the CAN. There was some question from I think Sri Harikesh. So you can also learn the fundamentals of the CAN also during your college days. So it will be useful. So okay, coming back to your question. So the technology communication medium like CAN, controller area network, or LIN, CAN, LIN, FluxRay, Ethernet. So these are all the communication networks. So here the communication will happen for every 50 millisecond, 30 millisecond. It is like 0.03 second, 0.05 second. If I am pressing the, suppose even though if the driver is not there, if it senses some object at the front, suddenly some object is coming in between. See, a person is coming in between like that. Once it is sensed within 0.03 seconds, kind of, don't take this value as serious. It varies for vehicle to vehicle, it varies for software to software, and it is their internal information. So I am telling the modern automotive CAN network is capable of transferring information within 0.05 seconds. It will keep on popping up the information and it will react. And for example, for a brake system and all to react in an autonomous vehicle, for every 50 millisecond, the information will be passed, brake like that. And this is one answer to your question. And next answer is like, what if it is failed? Like if as of now, there is no level 4 or level 5 autonomous vehicle in the world. Okay, even though Tesla is climbing like level 4, it is a level 2 only so far in SAE point of view. So you suppose if there is a level 4 vehicle there, if there is a concept called functional safety in this industry. Functional safety is nothing but functional safety, or we call it as SOTIF, SOTIF. Okay, you can Google this information. So functional safety or SOTIF is like, what if there is a failure in the system, in the electronic, in the modern electronics, what if there is a failure in the system? They will do the analysis. So the outcome of analysis, how the impact like a serious threat can be, how this can be avoided or minimized. Say life threat, or if the threat could be like your hand injury or something, at least your leg got broken, something like that, or even the pedestrian or vulnerable road user who is walking in front or who is driving a two-wheeler, they are like exposed to this threats. So this functional safety concept in the automotive companies, they will do this analysis and they will try to minimize the impact of what is happening when there is a failure in this electronic components. But still, of course, your question is like, yes, there could be events, there could be here and there events, but it needs data, it needs extensive data. If you see, for example, for the project which I work in India, and we have run lakhs and lakhs of kilometers in the public road. Not like this is not a completely autonomous vehicle. This is like a 1 or 2 technology here and there. We have run lakhs and lakhs of kilometers to we need to collect so much of road data. If we have so much of road data, it will be like 1 TB. I have 4 to 5 hard disk at my desk, which have at least 20 TB of data with me. So for running I have to analyze the data and I have to give the information to the software developer, like, see, this is how the software is reacting. So you have to build the software in such a way that the safety incident should not happen. Like that, this is the high level story which I am telling. There are of course technical activity at the background, but this is how we need a road information as input to avoid this kind of safety incidents. See, there is suddenly people coming in between, suddenly there is a road dip and up and down on there, and there is a hill is there. What if there is a rain is there? What if there is a foggy condition or snowy condition like Europe? So every information we need data. So that's how we are covered, but we are not sure. There is no vehicle in the world which can assure you that there will not be any threat. I mean, death threat or something like that.
Yes, absolutely. 95% it is not failure, but 5% will be there, As you
Correct,
said, suppose in between, suppose a person or an animal comes into, how fast the vehicle can respond to it. That's my question. Thank you, bye.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
yeah. Thank you, doctor.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I am going to ask one question.
Yeah.
Sir, thank you for your giving more informations. And actually, which factor causes the delaying introducing electrical vehicle in India? What is
Okay.
the real factor?
Okay, so I am not the right guy to answer this question. Government should answer to your question. So there is a key decision. The policy maker should take this decision very fastly. Of course, in fact, if you see in Europe and all, there is a committee called UNEC, United Nations. I don't remember exactly now. You can Google UNEC. So there is a committee arranged by the United Nations. They will, I mean, even India is a silent member of that group. So every policy makers, like members of parliament, so on technical peoples, IAS level peoples in the Europe, they will come together. They will sit for the discussion. Say how can we launch this technology? What will happen in the public road? How the vehicle manufacturer should ensure the safety of the driver as well as safety of the person in the road. So your vehicle should have this. Like now, see now every vehicle should have ABS in India, right? So like that. And there are regulations in India, like if you are braking, at least your vehicle should stop in so and so distance. Like that, there is a regulation for brake, and there is a regulation for gradability. Your vehicle should climb at least this much % of gradient with your minimum number of passengers in the vehicle. So like that, there are a lot of regulations are there. It is the policymaker or the government to take the decision proactively based on the scenario changing in the world. Of course, India is responding, but the thing is, auto manufacturers are also moving gradually, because India is a very big market for automotive industry for the entire. If you see the automotive sales, in case of countries like US and Europe, it is completely saturated. Okay, so but now the entire automotive industry is focusing on India and China and Southeast Asian countries like Vietnam, Philippines. So those kind of things. Even the countries like Japan, they are almost most of the main OEMs are there having their very big plant in India, like Maruti Suzuki, even Honda or whatever it is.
Yes.
Yeah. So everyone is focusing on India only. Either they manufacture and sell in India, or else they manufacture and they export to the other European countries. If you see Renault Nissan, you cannot see such a big market in India, but they are exporting to Europe and Gulf countries like anything, and they are getting money like anything. And Daimler India commercial vehicle, BharatBenz, if you see. For one truck, they are selling in Dubai or Abu Dhabi. The vehicle is getting manufactured in India and it is exported via truck, shipped to the Dubai or Abu Dhabi. The profit from the one truck is equal to, say for example, I will tell you 25-ton trucks. You can see on the road 25-ton trucks. The profit of 125-ton truck is equal to at least 10 trucks sold in India. So you can see that much of phenomenal difference is there. So the industry, even though if you see like there is no vehicle on the road, everyone is exporting. Even though the Ford, you can see in the news like Ford plant is like about to shut down. But even though they are about to shut down, they are still running their CKD line, what they are called they have their plans to export, keep on continuing export, because India is having a very cheap resource in terms of labor, or cheap resource in terms of materials, raw materials. And it is closer to China. At least they can get the material from China and they can build in India and they can export. So India and China are the key players in this.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Sir.
Yeah.
Sir, the fast charging station is implemented in India. How we can able to charge the car in and how much times we can able to charge the car, and what is the battery life, and how the battery life will get affected?
This is like two different questions. So the fast charging will be like in Chennai, there are some 2 or 3 locations there are fast chargers implemented. And there are fast chargers. It is very rare you can see fast chargers now, since there is no how to say, there is no demand in the market. There is peoples are not interested in buying electric vehicles. It may be a two-wheeler or it may be a car. So that's why there are no how to say, government is also no not spending in a one go. So government is moving in step by step. Now government is giving, if you see, for the there are two electric two-wheeler in the market, in the road, for the past 2 to 3 years itself. You can see Ather Energy is one of a successful player in India. Okay, but now once Ola has launched their design, and Ola has introduced, like, for you can book the vehicle in 500 rupees, it has become very big, and Ola is officially a big hit in India. So using their how to say, the market their marketing strategy is such that they are going to launch in a very extensive way. They are going to implement at least 500 to 1000 fast chargers throughout the country. Once people, like, say for example, Ola is launching tomorrow, and every company will slowly implement their fast chargers in some city or in some petrol bunks. So it will keep on adding throughout the country. As of now, you can see in some WhatsApp forwards or messages, like e-vehicle is mean to reduce emission, but there are people who are running the fast charging unit by using electric, diesel or petrol. So yes, of course, as of now, the condition is like that only, because just we are entering into that phase. You can't even imagine how the transformation is going to happen in the next 3 to 5 years, because government is ready with the decision. Now government is ready with the decision. So previously there was a question from doctor. So he has asked, yes, if once the government is ready, now the government is ready. Before, until now, there was like only discussions and decision making was happening. Now the government is ready. The policy is clear. Vehicle manufacturers are ready with the vehicles. You can see, at least from where companies like Tata Motors and Mahindra, they are ready with multiple platforms with the electric vehicles. So once everyone are ready, government will implement the fast charging units throughout the country, and there are private players like even Bharat Petroleum, Hindustan Petroleum also, they may also implement. So there will be fast charging units throughout the country. So this will not be like overnight change in the country. It will happen in phases, but definitely you are going to see that in a news from 2024. It will be like a if you see, if the vehicle manufacturers are going to sell very less percentage of petrol and diesel vehicles, and if they are going to sell very huge volume of e-vehicles, of course they will also contribute to that. You can see petrol bunks which will have directly owned by Hindustan Petroleum or Bharat Petroleum petrol bunks are also there. There are people who will take the tender from the Hindustan Petroleum and Bharat Petroleum. They will also keep the bunk, right? So similar to that, Daimler or Mahindra, Ford, or they will also have some fast charging units in the country, and their dealers will also have some fast charging units. Some oil manufacturing companies will have some fast charging units, and in addition to that, these companies, small companies, may also come into picture. Of course, in India, everything is we cannot predict exactly, but this is the flow and this is the discussion with the industry right now. So anything dramatically can also happen.
Sir, can we do fast charging by using to AC or it is possible to doing like this?
What do you mean by? I don't get your question.
If any other fast charging stations is if I'm doing the fast charging to the current of AC to AC, it's possible to do the AC in, fast charging in AC or only in DC only.
Oh, there are also AC motors are available, but if you see, most of the vehicle manufacturers prefer a DC motor only. Okay, because the problem is you need an additional inverter. I mean, additional component in the vehicle means the cost of the vehicle is going to be increased. In countries like India, of course, cost is also matters, right? Yes, there will be AC, but it will be lesser. In my point, this is purely my assumption or my point of view only. There will be there for sure.
Okay, Jayendran sir.
Okay, Mr. Manigan.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Puvarasan, for the
Thank you.
wonderful lecture by covering all the topics related to myths as well as benefits of e-vehicles, types of e-vehicles, anatomy, and ADAS technology, levels of autonomy, as well as the ADAS technologies, and you compared the performance of camera, radar, lidar, and ultrasonic. Really very wonderful lectures. We came to know a lot of innovative features about electrical vehicle. Thank you very much for enlightening all of us, and thank you very much. And moreover, you have very patiently cleared doubts raised by students. Really, normally that too in the Saturday evening, the students, faculty, they are very much interested and they have raised so many questions. It shows that your wonderful lecture. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for that. I should also thank staffs and students who are very how to say calm in listening to the presentation, as well as very interested in asking the questions. You can always reach out to me in my email ID, or you can reach out to me via mobile if you need further clarifications.
Okay, thank you, Puvarshan.
Thank you.
Thank you
To everyone.
Yeah,
Thank
you all.
Thank you,
Have
sir.
a nice evening. Happy weekend. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.